Alright, the purpose of this video is to give you a really quick overview of the Martin Scorsese film Gangs of New York for the purpose of giving you a crash course to take you into doing the English exam as an external candidate. Now, Gangs of New York was produced in 2002, but it was originally conceived of in 1978, but was too expensive to film. And over that time, names like Mel Gibson, John Belushi, even Dan Aykroyd were attached to this film, but finally it was made in 2002. The setting of New York touched a nerve immediately after the September 11 attacks, because New York is in many ways the symbolic heart of the United States. It isn't simply the commercial center. It is in many ways the lifeblood of what America is and how it sees itself. Now, in order to make sense of all this, we need to consider the context of the director Martin Scorsese. He is arguably the greatest living director in America today. And he's a New Yorker himself, growing up in Hell's Kitchen. He's as much a scholar of film as he's a director, and I really urge you to try and track down his documentary series on his journey through American cinema. It's Scorsese's own kind of thoughts on the history of film and all the great films. I really think you should watch it if you're a scholar of film yourself. Now, he's known for making violent films, in particular Raging Bull, Goodfellas and Casino, but he would challenge this. In the director's commentary on Gangs of New York, he describes his films as being bloody, not violent. And when you look at some of the violent scenes, the actual violence takes place just outside of the shot, not actually in the shot. It's what we know is happening, and that's the implied violence that makes it so horrifying. Now, there is a wide cast in this film. But the two key characters, and it's the two key actors, are Leonardo DiCaprio as Amsterdam Vallon, the young man who is spending his life wanting to avenge the murder of his father, by Bill the Butcher Cutting, played by Daniel Day-Lewis. Now, the other key actors in the film are Liam Neeson, who plays Vallon's father, who's murdered at the start of the film, and Cameron Diaz. Now, these two actors are quite significant in the sense that Leonardo DiCaprio would go on to make a number of other films with Martin Scorsese, including Shutter Island and The Aviator. And Daniel Day-Lewis, where Scorsese is arguably the greatest living director, he may well be the greatest living actor at the moment. He's a powerhouse actor, and his performance in this film is electrifying, according to some critics. Now, the key ideas in this film that I'll be addressing include this idea of American myth. Now, you will remember that myth is this idea of foundation stories. So Australia and its myth has the Anzac myth, these ideas of where Australia comes from. Now, in Gangs of New York, the American myth is not in the Wild West. It's not this frontier myth that American cinema has focused on for the last 100 years. This is America founded in the streets through blood and violence. And this is really about American identity. And in the film, we have Bill the Butcher representing his gang or his group. He referring to themselves as the natives, the American-born, as opposed to the Irish migrants. And this idea of there being a battle for who gets to say who America is being founded on the streets is played out. And when we watch the entire film, we see that neither of them win, that America really is a melting pot. One of the other key ideas here is revenge. This film plays out much like a Shakespearean tragedy, that Vallon's quest to kill Bill Cutting ends with everyone dying ultimately. But then we have the idea of fathers and sons. Bill Cutting becomes, in some perverse way, a surrogate father for Amsterdam, and this plays out through a really interesting interplay between the two throughout the film, which is actually quite long. And so these are the key ideas here. I'm not going to go into any more detail because, again, this is a crash course. It's not a detailed study. This is to get you through that viewing section as an external candidate for the English exam. But I hope it helps you in your studies.